The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Hello, everyone.
We're back! And better than ever! And 2 minutes later, Jesse Starch is going to walk in here, pick me up, and throw me in a trash can.
Mark, you 30-year-old wrestling references.
Timely 30-year-old wrestling references.
20, oh, hang on. 20 plus. We're certainly
Absolutely
20 plus.
No one who's going to listen to this show remembers the Eric Bischoff, I'm back. Then, was it 2 years? A 2-year run before Vince dumped him in the trash?
It was 2
unceremoniously.
or 3. And John Cena threw him in the trash, but he had 2 or 3 years there, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I remember that because it was Jim Johnson. Like, someone put a gun to his head and said, "Make Back in Black" by AC/DC, but something
totally
we can use
did.
and license.
And
he went, okay.
The only thing missing from Eric Bischoff's Fall Back in Black naked karaoke entrance was the short shorts and the tie. Like, had he come out full like Angus Young, it would have been. I think it's Angus Young. I just threw out a name I remember. I think who's in AC/DC. It'd have been
He's the
great.
guitarist.
Yep. it would have been awesome. That would have totally sold it. Hey, Sucktember is almost over, and we're back, baby.
So, for those of you wondering if maybe we had been on strike in solidarity with the SAG and the WGA and everything, we're quite happy to tell them to take a hike too.
The official position of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network from CEO Mark Radulich is just fuck the strikers. We're with the artificial intelligence.
Look, hang on. The official position of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network and W2M Network, official in this case meaning unofficial, is let it all burn.
You know what the fun part of going over the 2021 Damn You Hollywood is? It's before Alexis did all of the title art for each one of the
Hollywood
shows.
sign on fire.
Yeah, it's the Hollywood sign on fire. Oh, Robert, I miss those years.
You miss other things about those years. There's a bunch of stuff that's better now.
I would prefer 2022 didn't happen and I was in a fucking coma, but we'll talk about that after the podcast.
You'd take another COVID pandemic over 2022.
Honestly, I wish cancer. Never mind. Not gonna finish that sentence. People who love me still will hear that. Anywho,
yeah, you don't want in your weaker moments. You might think, But as a general rule, we're all glad you're still here.
Look, we're too early in the podcast for me to use a particular word and say, haha, just kidding. So let's move on.
That's fair. We are less than 5 minutes in. And if you're wondering,
move on.
Everyone, why we're taking a little bit on the intro here. One, we haven't been here for a while, so Mark and I are sort of reestablishing the groove.
Yes, sir.
Pretty easy. We've done this a lot. But also, we're talking about The Expendables 4. A movie about which there is almost nothing to say.
Yeah, we are coming back with a bit of a
whimper.
Not a boom, shalak boom. All right, now
we return to the sound of a wet fart rather than the explosions of.
The Expendables 4 is a great exercise in not knowing when to stop or why your franchise was successful in the first place. This was Cognitive Dissonance, the action movie.
It's up there.
It's so bad. I want to talk a little bit about this series because, you and I were chatting before the show, and we didn't review the first two, but mostly because we just never got around to it. Timing, years, whatever the situation was at the time. We did do 3, and just because we like trilogies in this country and, in this milieu, stopping at the third one, though, that was probably too far. You could maybe make an argument for the second one, but
well, look, as a brief aside,
mm-hmm.
This isn't just an exercise in diminishing returns. This is an exercise in trying to franchise something that should not have been franchised.
Yeah, this really should have been one and done. It was a gimmick movie to begin with. And what is the Expendables? If you're just like, hey, I just think Mark and Robert are, like sexy Brett Hitman and Jim Anvil, pick which one you think is the 2. But so I come on the show to watch.
There's no good way to parse.
Let's see which movie they're gonna hate fuck tonight, and that's why you're here. But you know nothing of this franchise. The franchise was like the gimmick action movie Avengers of its time. It was all of your favorite action stars of the 80s and early 90s in a giant fuck all action movie, and it was awesome because everyone that first of all, it was a solid action movie script. But also, if you were a child of the 80s, I mean, there's 7 years between, I think, Robert and I. I'm 47, and you're what now, 40 this year?
No, I'm going to be 38 this year. It's a little over 10 between us.
Okay. I thought you were close to you are close to my wife's age, but you're still younger than her. Ex-wife. But anyway, so I should start getting used to that now. So if you were a child of the 80s like I was, or a child of the 90s like Robert was, then you grew up with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jason Statham, Dolph Lundgren, and I can't remember who else was in the first one. But it was like, oh my god, all my favorite people from all my favorite movies, and Randy Couture from the UFC.
Well, Steve Austin was the heavy for Eric Roberts,
right? What's his nuts from The Wrestler?
Mickey Rourke was there.
Yeah,
dude. Mickey Rourke's monologue to kick off the finale sequence of that movie is genuinely exceptional work.
Yeah. So the Expendables as a one and done gimmick project is amazing and almost flawless in that you paid your money to get what you paid for, and you got what you paid for, and everyone was happy, and it was competently made. The second one, I think, is the one they did with the Young Avengers. It was like Ronda Rousey and a bunch of
No, that's
actors.
3. Hang on.
That is 3. Okay.
2 is mostly the same cast.
Right.
They add Lesser Hemsworth, and Jean-Claude Van Damme is the villain.
Right.
Chuck
is
Norris.
Chuck Norris is there.
Norris is a cameo.
Is that also the one with Harrison Ford?
No, that's 3. We still have Bruce Willis in 2, if memory serves. It's been a while since I've seen 2.
So 2 is more of the same, and then 3 they do the Young Avengers thing with Ronda Rousey and a bunch of young actors. And that's
hey! You want to laugh? You want to have a good laugh at Avengers?
Sure.
At the third one?
Yeah.
You remember one of the other younger people they were trying to push as an up and coming action star to be in that second wave of guys that Sly hires?
Who?
Victor Ortiz.
Oh my god, that's right. What was it? I'm too pretty to be beaten up like this, or something like that he said, that asinine comment that got him thrown out of boxing.
Probably. Well, no, that and then headbutting Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
And then, oh no, I'm sorry, let's hug it out. And Floyd, because the round is restarted, knocking him out. I was gonna say
they'd have had a better time with Floyd in the movie than they would have with Victor Ortiz. But
yeah, again, that's Ronda and Victor Ortiz and a couple of other younger guys. And you got Mel Gibson doing a great job as the villain. Antonio Banderas is there to be a motor mouth.
So over the course of 3 movies, nothing is as good as the first one, but in terms of spectacle and who else is going to show up in this thing? If you're just kind of going, who else will they get for this giant action Lollapalooza? Yeah. They're fun to watch. And the third one is, again, not perfect. I don't remember us giving it a glowing review, but we didn't hate it either. It was fair to middling.
We had fun with it. It wasn't bad.
I don't even think we were that hard on Ronda Rousey. I think we were harder on her mixed martial arts career than we were, or wrestling career than we were on her acting. Such as it was. But getting to so the series franchise in and of itself, Should have stopped at 3, obviously. And especially once they'd hit everybody. Once they had gotten pretty much everyone they could get from the 80s and 90s to where this makes sense to keep doing, they should have stopped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because Wesley Snipes is in the third one too. So you're done at that point.
Right. You've exhausted the gimmick. The gimmick is done. It was time to move on. So imagine my surprise when
5 years later,
I guess like Stallone and Schwarzenegger and some of these other guys are just kind of looking at the streaming and theatrical exhibition market and going, look, even if this doesn't make any money in the theaters, someone will pick it up on streaming and we'll make our money back. So who cares? We'll just keep doing this because why not?
Well, look, we're making money. We're keeping people employed.
Right.
We're having fun. And there's no real financial penalty to any of this.
And so. I don't want to get into the craft review just right this second because propriety, sir. But I do want to say this before we move on. When your single biggest superstar get is 50 Cent, this should have never seen the light of day. If your casting director is like, either we've gotten everyone we're going to get and we don't want to do repeats, or there's nobody else out there, but the only one we could get was 50 Cent, Stallone should have said, you know what? Maybe I should go do Tulsa King season 2, because this was a giant. You're the one who likes to use the phrase nothing burger, but I walked out of this and I have a few nice things to say about this movie, but overall I was like, this was almost like mockbuster quality Expendables.
You want to know a giant indicator of film quality? Look at how many producers, executive producers, co-executive producers, and co-producers are on this thing.
Oh yeah,
because I stuck around specifically for that stat, the end of the credits, right? Their crappy cover of The Boys Are Back in Town comes up, and then it's like, okay, I'm curious. And the list of producers, co-producers, executive co-producers, it's longer than my arm.
You know what's funny?
It's ridiculous. That is one of those indicators of quality that it's not ironclad, but boy, is it doesn't fail often.
Let me tell you something. Adam Sandler, there's a story out there about him. You know where I'm going with this.
Himself.
Yeah, where his movies are not real movies, they're Ponzi schemes, they're excuses for studios to throw him money so that he can take his friends on vacation and they can go to exotic places.
Dude, look at where he films.
Yeah, so like he does movies like 50 First Dates or Jack and Jill and some other ones of late, and it's like they're garbage scripts with all of his friends.
Couples Retreat was just one of the worst.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them out there where it's just like
Netflix is just throwing money at him,
right? Because again, even when he was doing Jack and Jill was a theatrical exhibition, and I don't remember how well it did.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, I mean, no. I don't know how well it did. I understand terribly. It's like it was an affront to cinema, but
he did Pixels not long after that.
We reviewed that on here, and
didn't we review? Hang on, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we review Bedtime Stories too?
We did not. No.
Why did I see that then?
On a dare, a bet, a bad date. So anyway, just to wrap this up and then we can get into the plot synopsis. There's almost like Jason Statham doesn't need the work. He's doing just fine. And it almost just seems like Stallone kind of did this because it's like it doesn't quite feel like the Bruce Willis thing where, I'm just doing every European production I can to save money for my, family and whatnot that we talked about. And I don't want to get into it again. But this almost feels like Stallone just going, Hollywood owes me, and I'm going to suck everything back out of it that I can while I can get away with it because no one appears to be stopping me. It's like the honor system of Hollywood has gone completely out the window, and everyone's kind of looking around going, listen, the manager has left the store. Grab what you can and run because Hollywood is about to collapse.
Okay, Mark. Well, let me tell you how it is with this.
How it is, Robert.
Hollywood is stuck doing the same thing every other California business is doing at the moment. They are now powerless to stop anyone off the street coming in and taking whatever they want.
Fair. All right. You want to approximate a plot synopsis there in 50 words or less?
I can try. So, The Expendables. It's largely the same cast of characters. Who didn't come back? Arnie didn't come back. Ford didn't come back. Jet Li didn't come back.
Mickey Rourke didn't come back.
It's true. Our main group here is we have Sylvester Stallone as Barney. We have Jason Statham as Lee Christmas. Dolph Lundgren is back with his trauma hawk, which popped me just a little bit. Randy Couture is back. But that's kind of it from the original crew.
Right.
I mean, they couldn't even get Terry Crews back for the second one, if memory serves.
Yeah.
And I know he wasn't in the third. So first we have to replace him. We need a token black guy. So here's 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson.
Well after the bloom has come off the rose of 50 Cent. I mean, at this point, he meets the minimum criteria of someone that used to be famous. But that's as close as it gets.
As I was watching this movie, somewhere in my head I went, oh, this was supposed to be Quentin Rampage Jackson before he gained like 400 pounds.
Yeah, before he turned into Fat Albert.
Yes, and started auditioning for that role. But no, I mean that in all sincerity. Like if you, because you know, we both like the A-Team movie.
Sure. They're flying a tank.
It was great. I love that. I genuinely enjoy that movie.
I laugh every time. I told you. I think back when Ronnie and I reviewed it, I had to show that to my son because it was so funny to me.
It really is. They're trying to shoot the drone. No, they're flying that tank.
It's great.
It worked. But like that version of Quentin Jackson, the actor that he showed off in there, like that's what they like. That's what's in the head,
right,
for this role. And
what black guys do you got? Well, we've asked most of them that, you know, would give this movie any kind of gravitas or prestige, and they all said, "Lose my number, stop calling me here." So who's left? Well, most of the rappers don't want to be associated with Sylvester Stallone or Jason Statham because why? Why are we dealing with these two old white men? So who's left?
Look,
50 Cent said he would do. 50 Cent said he would do it for a case of Coors.
I can't tell you how glad I am it wasn't Tyrese. That's all I'm gonna
say. He's busy in a franchise that's slowly losing money, but not quite yet.
Oh no, that's losing money a lot faster than slower these days.
Sure.
But again, of all the people they could have gotten, yeah. So we have him. Eddie Hall makes a cameo. That's kind of fun if you know who Eddie Hall is. But our first bit here is we have to go stop the evil Iko Uwais, who I'm a big fan of. I really enjoy his work as a general rule, especially the stuff he was able to do in his native Indonesia. But he's our villain for this one, and he's in Libya because I gotta say this. This is my only craft review I'm gonna do. Then I swear I'm gonna get to the plot. I watched this movie, came away from it, and thought this is why we can't have AI writing scripts.
Because they put in 80s action tropes and out came Gaddafi's Libya.
Out came, hey, a chemical plant that Gaddafi had in Libya.
Like
40 years ago.
When was the last time Libya was fucking relevant in any kind of international or even fictional, like, terrorist state sense?
I know. No. There's an answer to that question, actually, believe it or not. So the action movie done by Michael Bay with John Krasinski, 13 Hours. Because that's the Benghazi issue.
Sure, but
that's him telling that story.
That is way outside the norm. Right, but that's my point. Like that dealt with an actual issue that was isolated to one event in human history, all things considered. When you think about like what is Libya was who we were mad at during the Reagan administration. That's why they were always the big bad. So when you're doing a throwback action 80s 90s film and you're like, well, where should we have our terrorist state? Okay, that makes sense.
I imagine they were
said it in except that you still said it in 2023. So this thing should have been set in, your motherfucking stand. Libya.
They were given three options because the 80s had three classic settings for this kind of thing.
Sure.
It was going back to Vietnam.
Right.
That
Which
was
you can't do.
that was popular.
Sure.
It was either Russia or China, depending on like which half of the 80s,
Right.
or it was Middle East or North Africa, somewhere in that range. And
Right.
the producers looked at the AI generated options and went, we're not going to do this with Vietnam. We're not doing it with Russia or China because
Right.
of financial reasons. So, hey, Libya.
Libya. Yeah. Instead of, a country in the year of our Lord 2023 that would have made sense. But anyway,
Yep.
so yes.
So
we open up with a big fuck all action sequence.
So yeah, somewhere in Libya at a former chemical plant that Gaddafi had, there's a general of some nondescript variety. He's attacked by, again, Iko Uwais and his forces. He's convinced to give up the detonators to potential nuclear devices because different components. These are the ones they need. And he says, no. And then they bring out his dead wife and he goes, no, my wife. And he goes, I'm going to kill your son. The only thing I can promise you is that it's painless. So tell me where they are. And he goes, fine, where they are. Here's the key. And then he shoots his kid in the head.
Yep.
Then he goes, no. And then he gets shot in the head. Because that's how this works.
Yeah.
One good thing about the movie, appreciate killing the kid. Thumbs up.
I was going to say that was brave. I mean, they did it off screen, but it was still brave. I mean, it was like they did a brave thing in a pussy way, but I'm still going to give them credit for it. That's a C+ in my book because at least you did it.
So the Expendables are hired by Andy García.
Yes, Andy García, who's playing Baddie McTurncoat.
The best you could get is Andy García.
Robert De Niro too busy still filming Killers of the Flower Moon.
Probably.
Like that thing is still filming. It will be filming until the day it comes out.
I'm pretty sure the end credits of that is us getting a live stream of the shooting location.
Martin Scorsese going and cut. That's a wrap, everyone.
At which point someone will have to throw something at his head and go, "You're not Kubrick. Please stop trying to be."
Robert De Niro's pants just fall down and he just backs out of it like this,
Homer Simpson disappearing into the bushes.
Yes. But back to Lee Christmas.
So yeah, he's dating Megan Fox, which is apparently what passes for a subplot here. So Andy García.
I gotta say this now. We'll get to it in the craft review, but I have to come back to painted women operating as mercenaries. Because even my girlfriend, who's like, again, not like a movie snob like us, but she has thoughts and she has some interesting opinions. And both of us were just like, who gets started up before they go on a merc mission in the fucking Middle East? Like Megan Fox in her tight pants and her nicely done hair and extensions, as it was pointed out to me, and her very nice makeup, and the other broad who got, who turned out for date night, turns out it was a mercenary mission. What the fuck are we doing in this movie? Why is this like Xena warrior princess with a machine gun? Also a show featuring painted women in medieval times brandishing swords thrown by watery tots. Go on.
Yeah, that is really just no basis for a system of government.
It's fun to be back.
I had to finish the line, otherwise it was going to bother me. So the Expendables drop in to start fighting and they try to stop Iko from getting the detonators. They don't do it. We get an action scene. Sylvester Stallone is still flying the plane around. He gets shot down. We're led to believe he's dead, which no one is stupid enough to believe. You made a face like you know someone who was stupid enough to believe that.
Look, there was a voice in the back of my head going, well, they're not going to do another one of these. Wow, I really commend this movie for being brave. They shot a kid. They killed a lead. I'm proud of you, movie, for being brave and doing interesting things. And oh no, they Chewbacca'd him. Damn you, Hollywood. And that's why we call this podcast that.
So again, he theoretically dies. Everyone's sad, but now we have to stop Iko from getting the nuclear material necessary to create a bomb. And it turns out he's working for Ocelot, and someone played way too many Metal Gear Solid games. which are the other references that we got here. And turns out Ocelot has deep history with Barney, and now we're going to get him, but Jason Statham is a loose cannon who plays by his own rules, and he's on suspension now. He's off the team.
He's also a busy businesswoman who don't need no man.
So our busy businesswoman who don't need no man is now in charge of everything, despite demonstrating zero proficiency or capability in leading armed combat.
Look, we all know when you're in the Marines or the Green Berets or anything like that, the first thing they give you is a pair of tight pants and a nice makeup kit so that you could be all totted up for your mission. And at that, Megan Fox, who I want to keep calling Denise Richards because I'm old and feeble.
Yeah,
and they might be the same
wow.
person.
Wow, that's a reference.
Yeah, like Megan Fox, Denise Richards, same broad. We all know that is what it takes to lead a military mission under enemy fire behind enemy lines. To make sure you look like you're ready to go out to the party, to go out to the bar, ladies' night. That's what they call it.
So they all go out to try and stop him. Iko is on a super tanker heading for Vladivostok. And they all jump it. They get into a plane. Andy García accompanies them. They head out to this boat. It's a trap. They're all captured because the other thing we're after here is someone who knows who Ocelot is. There's a guy, he's in protective custody, and apparently whatever happened that got Ocelot exposed was so bad that like 5 different governments decided to seal all files related to all of this until everyone involved with it was dead. Barney was the last one. With his death, they've unsealed this heavily redacted file, which still apparently gives this guy's name. And now Ocelot wants him for some reason, and I'm gonna yell about that later. And when everyone gets on the boat, they realize, oh, there's a pretty high radiation signature here. There must be a nuke. And they find a nuke in the. There is in fact one in the in the bowels of the ship. Homemade nuclear device, and it's just hanging there, set to go off. And anyway, they're all captured. Now, you might be wondering, so what's up with Jason Statham? Well, he goes to Thailand, finds Tony Jaa and his clunker boat. And I cannot express enough. This is the dumbest thing in this movie. They boat from Thailand to the outer Siberian edge and catch the plane and the super tanker.
They were passed only by Dom Toretto, who was racing in the other direction to China.
I imagine he was in the midst of something going on there. Like, they had friggin' Ezra Miller running behind them with his stupid wavy arms, and they were propelled. I don't know what but a boat trip from Thailand to Vladivostok will take you quite a while.
They use the hyperspace ring from Ahsoka.
I don't know what that is, but I'll take your word for it.
Just keep going.
The only thing I know about Ahsoka is long pregnant pauses and block of wood Rosario Dawson.
I did not know Refn was directing Ahsoka. I was so shocked.
You're gonna piss off the Star Wars people. That's usually my job.
You're back. I'm searching
for something.
So
God.
That's why Ahsoka's 8 episodes long. It's got 3 episodes of content and 8 episodes of pregnant pauses.
That sounds about right. So Jason Statham shows up. He kills a bunch of people. He finds the bomb. He goes to free everyone. They kind of free themselves. He still winds up saving them. Meanwhile, the United States government has agreed to bring over this Chinese fellow who knows who Ocelot is. And surprise, surprise, it's Andy García. Raise your hand if you're surprised, Mark. You weren't surprised.
Not at all.
Raise your hand if you're bored. Yeah.
How many assholes we got on this ship? Yo.
So he winds up dead, and it turns out the plot here is to disguised the supertanker to look vaguely like a United States aircraft carrier to surveillance satellites, I guess, and then blow it up with a nuclear bomb to trigger World War III. This is Ocelot's grand plan, undone in no small part because he decided he really had to kill this Chinese guy who knew who he was. So another big action set piece occurs. Jason Statham stays behind to sacrifice himself because really we've got to get this thing out of Russian waters.
Okay, real quick. So the whole thing with Sylvester Stallone dying in the beginning gets paid off here. So Sylvester Stallone's like, I'm going to crash my... This is important, especially because they Chewbaca'd him. But I'm going to crash the plane. It's the only way to be sure. We have to nuke this thing from orbit, yada, yada, yada. And Lee Christmas is like, but no, Stallone, you are my hetero life mate, and I will not let you die. And everyone's like, hey, stupid. The mission. We're called the Expendables for a reason. Don't be dumb. And Jason Statham's like, no, but I'm all the dumb. And so he saves Stallone. The bad guys get away, but oh no, not in enough time. And so Stallone crashes and burns anyway. Now, as it turns out, Sylvester Stallone faked his own death in what is the dumbest plot convenience I have seen in quite some time. And
it's up there.
In the course of doing Damn You Hollywood since the year of the flood, we have seen some dumb plot conveniences. You have talked about many of them at great length, but even this one hit me right in the solar plexus, and I was left dumbfounded and questioning my life choices. So,
not wrong.
So he comes back to life.
He shows up in an attack helicopter.
And so the whole thing is, and I don't want to take over your job. I'll let David write Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but this was set up payoff. So Lee Christmas fucks up the mission by trying to save Stallone at the beginning of the film, and this one he's like, I understand now that the mission is more important than me, so I will make the noble sacrifice, which is then completely undone by returning from the dead Sylvester Stallone.
It's not completely undone.
Yes, it is.
No, hang on. It's not, and I'll explain why.
I'm going to disagree with you because I know what you're going to say,
okay,
but still the way they did it is so asinine, it does undo it, but let's get through this.
So if you're talking about like the narrative emotion of it, yeah, it does. If you're talking about...
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, fine. Practically it doesn't because he still needs to get the bomb out
No,
of
I
Russia,
understood why he did what he did. I understood why he did what he did, and like narratively, I'm fine with that. But again, I'm not for faking out the audience with these emotional deaths, only to undo them later.
They really should have killed Chewbacca.
They should have.
But, Jar Jar.
Yep.
Anyway, so he stages a big attack through the ship. He drops an anchor. He redirects the tanker back out to international waters where even if the nuclear device goes off, the Russians won't necessarily have cause to launch an attack and save the world. And then, again, Sylvester Stallone shows up with an attack helicopter and he violently Gatling guns. he mini guns Andy García. And I felt so vindicated because I still remember his father of the bride. And that felt good.
Yep.
Jason Statham gets in the chopper with Sylvester Stallone. They sink the tanker, so the bomb goes off underwater, contaminating so much. So many problems would arise from that. But it does not trigger World War III. Barney's alive. Everyone's safe. We go back. Everyone has their little party because everyone's happy now. Look, life and death scenarios made Megan Fox and Jason Statham make up. Randy Couture gets with the hot ethnic Asian chick.
Who is there for no reason other than to look hot and ethnic.
Yeah. I imagine there's an alternate version of this where she's much more important for a different market.
In France, they get it all.
They really do. And yeah, that's kind of where we are. Everything's back to where it was before. And
I'm going to...
Hang on. I have one thing I have to say before I let you have your start here.
Yeah.
So Megan Fox can't act.
Still.
Now, frequently she's not put in positions where that's a big deal.
Right. It doesn't take a lot of acting to look hot as you bend over a car hood. I'm sorry. Did I give you fucking a flashback to a Transformers movie and you're having a difficulty moment?
I'm trying to make a point, and you just have to make it weird.
Okay.
But there's one shot in particular when Jason Statham cuts the rope, is like, okay, I'm going to stay behind. I'm going to make sure this mission is completed. You guys go. When she has to look back at this person that she theoretically cares about and express something about what's about to happen. And I looked at her and went, you're just a slightly confused puppy making duck lips.
I was going to say,
and it's just
when Pinocchio was an actual wooden puppet, it showed more emotional range than she does in that scene.
They might have been better putting more money into the VFX budget and just digitally creating a girlfriend.
An artificial intelligence girlfriend would have been great.
Which they could then sell online.
Let's continue to talk about Megan.
Going.
Let's continue to talk about Megan Fox for a second, because
do we have to? I'm ready to leave that. I'm ready to leave that 10 years ago.
No shit. I want to bring up something again. My girlfriend made this point, and it's fun to watch a movie with somebody who doesn't kind of think about things the way that we do, because I get a different perspective and it makes me think about things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of. And it's also fun to go with a girl, and I'll tell you why. Because girls will pick up on things that us guys maybe sometimes we pick up on, maybe sometimes we don't. But more often than not, I find that when I see these on dates, I'm getting a perspective that I absolutely would not have thought of when it's just me and you. And I say that because a couple of things. She was very keyed into Megan Fox's performance in this and the scenes that she's in. And so she brought up a couple of points that I thought they were worth talking about. Not just, like, I'm not like, this isn't like a girlfriend kiss ass thing. This is like, oh God, you brought up some really valid points that I would have never thought of because I do not fucking care. But they're great film craft points, and I want to get them out there. One, the opening scene where we are reintroduced to Lee Christmas and Megan Fox, Jason Statham and Megan Fox.
They're arguing.
But here's the thing, and I don't know if you've ever been married to a woman, but generally speaking, they don't get tarted up for it. Now, if you're in the middle of, like, you're at the bar in Ybor, and your girl is flirting with another guy, and you grab her by the arm, and she's like, "Don't grab me." Yes, you're both dressed up and ready to fight. We get it. However, if you're if it's Sunday afternoon and you happen to be home and you're arguing over, did you take the trash out or not, you asshole, she's not wearing a fucking cocktail dress. But but the costuming in this movie is so bizarre at times. I talked about before. She gets, like, her mission uniform is tight leather pants and a tank top that shows off her bare midriff, because that's important when you're being shot at. And in this earlier scene, she's literally got on high heels and a fucking cocktail dress. Look, I've lived with women for the last 20 years, different women, but still women. I have not once seen any spouse, any girlfriend, any aunt, any mother, any woman I've ever been in a room with get dressed up for an argument. And there she is, ready to look like she's ready to serve him a fucking vodka tonic, screaming and yelling like women do, but really looking pretty about it. Like, I don't bring up the subject of the male gaze much. The last time was 2 years ago when we or a year ago when we discussed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and you can check out my TikTok where I brought this up.
Hang on. Just so everyone understands which remake Mark's referencing. He means the second one with Arlie Emery and Jessica Biel.
Yeah, with Jessica Biel's frigid nipples. And I was like, that had to be an example of the male gaze. Yeah, this one was, like, blunt to the point of being, like, mentally deficient about it. Like,
this was directed by an idiot who watched nothing but Michael Bay movies.
Well, I was going to say, like, again, this also comes across like a mockbuster Michael Bay movie when they're just like, all right, so what does a Michael Bay movie entail? Lurid shots of tits. Okay, so we're going to have them fight. All right, well, let's put her in, like, what women would wear, yoga pants and a fucking sweatshirt or something. Well, it's, we got to have her look, she can't look like a bag lady. Okay, yoga pants and a fucking tank top. Okay, but it's Megan Fox. We should use her, and guys are going to watch this. What do you want her to do? Wear a fucking Playboy bunny outfit? What the fuck are we doing here? So there's that. And then
I'm sure there was a suggestion at one point that she'd just be wearing a towel.
Just waving it around at him. Yeah.
Oh, and it comes off, and she just kind of like hits him as he goes out.
Why not clamshells in a fucking fig leaf then? Let's do pasties. Like, why are we playing with the idea that she's home and domesticated? So this I've already brought up now 2 and 3 times. I don't need to bring it up again. But the third thing that my girlfriend brought up, which I thought was hilarious because I didn't even think about it. So they're fighting over. I can't remember if this is now like the pre or post fight before. Where I think Andy García has iced him from the mission, Jason Statham. You can't go, you're a loose cannon, you're too emotionally involved, you fucked up the previous missions, you were going to punish you. Okay, fine. So instead we're going to put the tart, with the tight pants in charge, because that makes more sense. Not Randy Couture, not Dolph Lundgren, not 50 Cent, Tardy McGee. She's well equipped for this. So they're having kind of they're kind of having a sexy argument about it. And they're like tackling each other and jujitsuing each other, and it's all very sexy and and fun and like, oh, isn't this how men and women behave? Wrestling each other. Arrgh. And so the implication is we're going to go from what we're doing here to go and have sex.
And the thing. And somewhere in the middle, she changes into a completely different lingerie outfit.
So my girlfriend like made a point of like laying this out, and I need to do it the way she said it because it was fucking hilarious to me. Right. She's like, so let me get this straight. These two are fooling around on the ground. They're kissing and they're hugging and genitals are touching, and it's all fantastic. And they're going to take off their clothing and go have sex. And she's going to be in the middle of going to have sex. We are having sex. Stop. Change clothes. Put on this lingerie to then go back to having sex, to then only taking off the bottom so we can have a overhead shot of it hanging from the ceiling fan. But by the way, because this is, I don't even remember what this is rated. I think it was rated R.
It's an R.
And because it's rated R, I don't know what, and then this was her point. She was like, I'm on board if this is like a movie for guys who like movies. So let's show violence. Let's show people getting stabbed violently in the neck and being Gatling gunned to death. And oh, by the way, let's show some tits. It's rated R. And they're like, no. Those first 2 things are okay. But God forbid, in the year of our Lord, the year 2023, we show a woman's bare bosom in a scene where they're having sex, in a scene where she's now having to wear lingerie. She was like, there was a lot of unbelievable shit in this movie, but that was the most unbelievable thing of it all. Because I don't know if you've ever actually had intimate relations with a woman, but they're not stopping in the middle. I assure you, they're not stopping in the middle to do a wardrobe change. Not unless the guy weirdly requests one, and that's a whole other conversation that we're not having on Damn You Hollywood. But like, what an asinine sequence of events.
Subscribe to our OnlyFans where we talk about that stuff.
Yeah, subscribe to the After Hours show, the 4th hour of the Damn You Hollywood experience. But like, she was like, yeah, that was the most dumbest thing about this movie, because I can believe everything else that was going on in this magical world where the bad guys have poor aim and the good guys can fucking headshot you from 100 yards.
Unless you're Dolph Lundgren, in which case you need the power of relapse.
The power of alcohol compels you. Yeah, anyway, I needed to get that out. So
it is. It's stupid.
It's like if anything
broke the realism, dumb movie.
If anything broke the quasi-realism of that movie, it was her putting on lingerie, then go have sex. You fucking retards. I will say this. This is one nice thing I was going to say. I was going to do a compliment sandwich, but I'd rather talk about that first. The best thing about this movie, the only reason to go see this, and at this point, don't go bother seeing it in the movie theater. Just wait for it to come on streaming. It'll be there in about a week. Uh-huh. This is graphically violent. This is
you're a wuss.
This is not graphically like gross. I mean, like,
hang
on. On a scale of modern action movies, the deaths, the kills in this movie are better than average for modern action movies. Like the guy's getting stabbed to death and shot up and everything. I mean, not as much blood as I would have liked, but I still think the selling point of this movie, because it ain't the star power, is the action sequences. Now, the action sequences are about 12 hours long, and there's way too many of them, but it's about the only thing holding up this propaganda project. We brought it up before, and just to get it out, so I can make my point about this. I understand the point of the way they wrote Sylvester Stallone's faking his own death, except that that's not what his intention was. It was way too contrived and way too convenient, because basically they do it. The intro sequence is him getting into a bar fight, or tricking Jason Statham into a bar fight on his behalf. It was kind of like the racing scene in Grease. It was like, well, here's my second. He'll do it for me. So playing the part of Kaneki, Jason Statham, and they get into it. And so there's,
as a minor aside, I've never seen Grease, right?
I did not know that, but that helps. So anyway,
don't let that stop you, but just so you know, never seen the movie.
Okay, well, I won't wait for a reaction next time I do a Grease reference because I will. In any case, the whole setup is like there's this short guy that Jason Statham beats the shit out of, and it turns out he was on the plane and he's the body that's going to get burned up when Stallone bails out of the plane, but it's to make it look like he burnt up in the crash. And here's the thing. This is, once again, like, you would have so many, he had to, did he know he was going to get shot down? He couldn't have known that. Was he that over prepared? Like, well, just in case I get shot down, I can fake my own death, and we can smoke out who Onslaught is. Get the fuck out of here. This is one of those things where, like, we want to have an emotional, we want to have a reason to leave Jason Statham at home so that he can go on a side quest with, what was it, Tony Jaa?
Tony Jaa.
Yeah. Okay. But this is the classic example of really poor writing. Everything is too contrived. Everything is way too convenient. And we're doing dumb shit just because the plot says so. None of this flows naturally or organically. So that's my biggest problem. And then the other thing is I'm just getting tired of that being something that Hollywood writers lean on. We'll kill a hero in the first act and bring him back in the third act, and the audience is supposed to clap like seals. And I'm like, one, you've done this one too many times. We know the trick now, and we're not falling for it. Two, not even when it works, it's not going to work 100% of the time. Your writing still has to be competent and good and solid, and it wasn't in this case, and it was garbage. Other than that, just real quick, the only other comment I want to make, because it really jumped out at me as poor, the guy who plays Jacob Montez Scipio. He plays Alan.
Okay, he's playing Antonio Banderas' son.
Okay, so they wrote him like distractingly weird. They give him like the motor mouth gimmick, but he
then pair it with like sexual deviancy for some reason.
Why is he like weird?
Hey, you know what's
gay? Like, I don't understand what's happening.
You know what's funny? Golden showers. That'll get a laugh.
I swear to God, like, this sounds like something. Here's the thing: my son's really bright, so I can't really like. This sounds like something my son would write. This sounds like something my son would have other people in his 4th grade class write. Like, if the teacher was like, "Hey boys, get together and cobble together an action movie,"
Here's what we're doing. We're gonna popcorn story the 4th Expendables movie, and each we just go from kid to kid and get like, you do a character, you do an action scene, you do a
like my son like pitched an idea and then was like, and then like walked away to like, had the other kids in the class write it. This is what they would come up with. All right, what did you think of the movie? I'm sure not much.
Yeah, I almost don't have anything good to say about this. The action is one too many sequences, more than one, of obvious stuntmen doing something, cut to actor on green screen to try and convince you they're the ones in play, back to stuntman actually doing something.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over and over again. I found the violence weak. Like, I like violent movies.
Really? Only comparing this to the last 2 years of features. I mean, granted, it's no fucking Chris Hemsworth and what do you call it? But I forgot the name of the movie now.
You mean Extraction?
Yes.
That's kind of what I'm after. Like, that's what I like from my action movies.
But if Extraction is a 10, I think this is somewhere between 5 and 8.
This is like 2 notches above Morbius violence. That's all I'll give it.
Okay, seems a little unfair, but
dude, it's crappy CGI blood everywhere.
Okay, all right.
That's
I'm
all
not
it
going to
is.
argue with you about.
And I'm sorry, that doesn't do it for me.
I guess because of what we watch and what I pay attention to, I'm so used to bloodless fucking pussy violence of a Marvel movie.
Yeah, okay. If our point of comparison to this is, again, the average Marvel movie or Star Wars, yes, this is much more violent than that. It's still weak.
Mm-hmm.
It's again, I like violent movies, and consequently, I hold them. If that's going to be part of your selling point, I'm going to hold you to a standard.
That's right. So if you're watching this, you're going, well, what would you recommend? Go watch Extraction or Extraction 2.
Those two are fine. Go watch the better versions of those movies that they're based off of. Stuff like The Night Comes for Us, The Raid Redemption. Actually, both of which feature Iko Uwais in very prominent roles. She's the lead in one of them. There's a bunch of like the movies from I think it's all Gareth Edwards who does this Indonesian style of just crazy violent martial art gunplay. Again, I like these kinds of movies in theory. When you take away all the fun, when you take away the violence, when you take away the visceral reaction to what's going on, there's nothing there. There's nothing there anymore. You don't have anything here. There's nothing about this movie that's going to stick with me positively, and even the negative stuff will go away very shortly. It's poorly acted. It's horribly written. It's not shot very well. It's edited all to hell. The story is utterly nonsensical. I mean, so let's track this for half a second because this is going to amuse me. So, Andy García is Ocelot, right?
Yep.
His whole plan, hang on. His plan is to detonate this nuclear device in Russian waters, blaming America, starting World War III because he will profiteer from this somehow. He jeopardizes all of this to kill one guy who knows who he is, the last guy who knows who he is, right? Who is released from CIA protective custody on whose authority? His own. As soon as he knows this guy exists, he literally possesses the power to get him out of there. Instead, we get this stupid dog and pony show for the sake of protracting the story and convenience for the plot. I'm more forgiving of weird bad guy plans than most because in some cases, as long as I can track, like, how did we get here? There's no reason for any of this to happen the way that it does, apart from movie. Bad writing. Bad writing. Does this even have a screenplay credit? It has story credits, but, like, who wrote the actual screenplay?
Keep going and I'll go. Kurt Wimmer, Tad Daggerhart, which sounds like his porno name.
No. That's you're crediting the AI.
Tad Daggerhart? Okay. And Max Adams, which also sounds like a porno name.
Okay, hang on. Wimmer has directed, or he's written. He's written a couple of things that haven't sucked. I like Equilibrium.
So Scott Waugh, who directed this, also did Act of Valor, Need for Speed, Six Below Miracle of Mountain, Hidden Strike, which also came out this year, which is the John Cena movie. And then now the Expendables 4.
So Waugh is a very standard director. Look, I didn't dislike Hidden Strike. I mean, we're supposed to talk about it, and that kind of fell apart, but because, schedules in life. But yeah, there's not a lot of artistic vision here. There's not a lot of anything here. It's a bad movie.
Wimmer wrote the 2012 remake of Total Recall, the remake of Point Break.
Oh
my God, he's the monster responsible for Children of the Corn.
Okay, somebody drag this guy through the street.
He wrote The Misfits, which Jesse and I reviewed, and we thought sucked. Oh my God, I'm glad I took this off the schedule. He's responsible for The fucking Beekeeper.
What is that? I don't know what that
is. It's a Jason Statham movie directed by David Ayer, which I was going to put on the schedule because Jason Statham, and now no fucking way.
Well, Statham and Ayer, that's an interesting pairing, but
nope, I'm not giving this guy another chance.
Hang on, because he wrote a couple of things. So earlier in his career, he was hang on. Let me tell you the things that I did like that he's done as a writer / director. I actually really like Equilibrium.
Okay.
I don't hate
he wrote Salt,
which is a very bipolar movie. Like after 2010, everything he's done is shit.
Okay. He wrote so for the people watching at home going like, what? He wrote Sphere with Dustin Hoffman from 1998. He wrote The Thomas Crown Affair, which people seem to like.
It's
Equilibrium,
not bad.
which you talked about. The Recruit.
All right.
Ultraviolet.
Terrible.
Yeah. Street Kings.
Pretty terrible.
Law Abiding Citizen.
2/3 really good.
All right, and then we're into Downward Spiral into Hell.
Then Salt's passable, but everything after that is just awful.
All right, so wrap up so we can move on.
So, yeah, this was doomed from the start. I don't know why it exists. I'm not usually one of these guys who puts the movie out and says, justify your existence. Like, no, I know why it exists in that respect. There's no reason for this movie. There's no story. There's no acting. There's no action to speak of that's any good. There's nothing. There's nothing here.
It's one of those. So it got put up by Lionsgate, and I can tell you, Lionsgate took a flyer on this just because, like, oh, it's speaks the Expendables. It's Stallone. It's Jason Statham. That all seems like a recipe for making money, but again, not the fourth time out, and not when you put together the subpar team.
At this point, Lionsgate is half banking their entire year on their Hunger Games prequel.
I mean, I think it's going to do well. The people in the circles that I run in are all very excited for what that's worth. All right.
Okay, you tell me there's excitement for it, Ollie. I will take you at your word. I refuse to believe it because I don't know. I don't get it. I barely understood the Hunger Games as a general, because I read all the books. Because my couple of my brothers were preteens when they first came out, and they were like a big sensation. And so my mother gave me them and said, your brothers want to read this. Make sure it's age appropriate. So I read them. And went, yeah. I mean, I don't know if they'll like them, but there's nothing graphically violent, graphically sexual, graphically, there's nothing. It's dystopian. It's kind of depressing,
right?
But it's not. There's nothing objectionable in that particular sense to it. And then I watched the movies, sort of. I think I watched the first one in theaters. The others I got stuck doing when I was donating plasma because I just could not be bothered to care about them.
Sean and I reviewed them all.
And now there's hey, let's go back to that world and let's hang on. And let's make a harshly unlikable character, one of the main characters, and a harshly unlikable person, the female lead.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. Like I said, whoever watched that I don't remember how long ago this was, but if they were in their teens or 20s when those movies came out, they still have an affection for them. And so it's one of those, so this is what we got wrong about Avatar. We misunderstood and undervalued people's desire to return to that world. And what I'm realizing is that if you like something in your impressionable teen years or in your early 20s, anytime you get to go back to those places, you'll go without much thought. And I think therein lies the excitement. With that said,
you know what? That's probably fair. But again, you also are, dude, Rachel Zegler.
Yeah. Well, my son wants to be on our Snow White review next year so he can join in the hate fucking.
Hang on. Okay, we're not. We're an hour in, and I am glad we're that far in because of how you just phrased that.
Look, he knows that even he at 9 years old, with enough of history of my doing this that he's listened to and our discussions of film, he even knows Snow White next year is going to be terrible, and he wants it.
Hang on, that's assuming it even comes out.
Yeah.
There's rumors that they're looking at either completely reshooting it or just canning it because they can't get an audience to they can't it's not done. First of all, it's not done shooting, or it's not done post-production, between the two, and they can't cut it to be satisfactory. So they don't know what they're doing with it.
Take the loss. All right, you ready to move on?
But like for the record, Rachel Zegler is a walking warning label for what happens to people raised on nothing but positive affirmations.
And with that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Alrighty. On a budget of $100 million that they spent on who the fuck knows.
I'm going to assume. Well, one, you're VFXing a fair amount of stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Two, half of the names in this aren't exactly cheap.
Sure. It made in its opening weekend $21.2 million, and I think
Not exactly strong, but hang on. We joke about that, but in the modern landscape of filmmaking, believe it or not, this kind of movie only costing $100 million.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, This is one of those where it's I like talking to you. I like talking movies. It was what came out this weekend that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, this is not even a pebble in an ocean.
As a minor like side note to that, like dude, the Marvels cost like 250.
It's got to be more than that with the every time you push a movie back as much as that one's been pushed back, it's costing you money. And the amount of time and effort.
Well, again, like you push back and that you have to pay like the theaters for that because you rent theater space is how that works.
Right.
And then you also have to advertise all over again.
Yeah, this is what happened with Black Widow, where they took a bath on because it got pushed back 67 times. Morbius, that was the ongoing joke. But also, every time you do this, they rework things. They re-edit them.
They reshoot and... Well, the rumor has it at the moment that the Marvels is like 100 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you spend almost $300 million on a 90-minute movie.
You leave a lot of it on the cutting room floor.
No. The answer is you shoot a $100 million movie 3 times.
Yeah. All right. The number one movie of the weekend was The Nun 2, which I think is getting pretty good
top
reviews.
spot.
Yeah. The Expendables, which debuted this weekend, debuted at number 2, which is generally a sign that this thing is going to fall fast. So again, blink twice and it'll be on Netflix. A Haunting in Venice from Walt Disney and 20th Century Fox fell from 2 to 3. The Equalizer 3 to 4. Barbie, which they re-released in like IMAX theaters and did some other stuff with.
Apparently they gave it an extended cut already.
Yeah, so that maintained its spot at number 5. This is 10 weeks going, and I think it's the number 1 movie in the world now. We'll know that in a moment.
Well, I imagine. I don't know how. I don't think by. I imagine it's not going to beat it by much, but I think we had mentioned in the last show, like, yeah, that's probably going to get past Super Mario Brothers at this point.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, which I did see on a date, that fell from 4
I'm so
to
sorry.
6. This is the things you do for pretty girls. However, I'll talk about that for a minute. My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I know I saw the first one.
Well, hang on. My Big Fat Greek Wedding was a small budget romantic dramedy from what was it, 25 years ago?
Yeah,
and it was the shock hit of that year. I remember that because it was a giant success for a very small budget. Then nothing. Then a decade plus later, we get the sequel. Another decade, and we get.
Well, I'm looking at, it's funny. It doesn't even list the budget, but it made $31.1 million. This was a focus feature. I don't know what possessed them to do this, but it's made $31.1 million. It's made more in how many weeks it's been out than fucking The Expendables so far. So, whatever. I mean, like I said, I saw it. The time had with the girl I saw it with was nice. The movie was entertaining. If you're not into romantic comedies, obviously you wouldn't go see it. But if you're into that sort of thing and you're looking for something to bring, a pretty girl to, this is a perfectly serviceable movie for that kind of engagement. Moving on. It Lives Inside, debuted at number 7. Dumb Money, which I just saw yesterday,
And
got its wide release. It was good. That jumped from 19 to 8, but that jumped up because it's now in in 600 some odd theaters than it was. But I enjoyed Dumb Money. I mean, it the kid, the Paul Dano does a great job playing the kid. Seth Rogen, I like Seth Rogen's another one where I like him when he has to act and act seriously and dramatic as opposed to being a stupid stoner.
I prefer to see Seth Rogen in the ground.
Vincent D'Onofrio is good in this. I mean, it's the true story of what happened with the GameStop thing, and it much like The Big Short, it did a really good job of taking something that's a little wonky and in the weeds and explaining it for a general audience to understand. I can tell you the girl who I saw it with was able to follow it. By the end, she was like cheering for the day trade for the regular traders. He's like, "Yeah, down with capitalism" and some shit. So like using her as like a measuring stick because it wasn't like the full theater or anything, but the people who saw it kind of had a similar reaction to her. And so the movie was well done, well acted, explained the material well, and in the end got the reaction it wanted to from the audience. Your mileage may vary of how much that's important to you, but it's something that I noticed and was worth talking about. Dumb Money, worth watching when it comes out on PVOD or on a streaming service. Probably don't have to go see it in a theater, but I did because I want to support independent film, especially about a subject matter I'm interested in. Blue Beetle fell from 6 to 9. Oppenheimer may have also cracked $1 billion.
It's close. It's already. It is now the most successful biopic of all time.
Yeah, I think it's up there with rated R movies as well. That fell from 9 to 10.
Yeah, I think it's only behind Joker at this point.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem fell from 10 to 11. Creation of the Gods 1 Kingdom of Storms debuted at number 14. Stop Making Sense 2023 re-release debuted at number 15. I Can 23. The Origin of Evil 26. My Sailor, My Love 28. A re-release of Farewell, My Concubine, story of Mark Radulich. In the year of our Lord 2022. That debuted at 35. Uncharitable 38. What Doesn't Float 41. And excuse me, that was the weekend that was. All right, worldwide, baby, on the dime. Barbie, the number one movie in America. Yes, it has beat Super Mario Brothers by a factor of about a little less than 100,000
million.
At 1,400,027, et cetera, et cetera. Super Mario, yes, 1 million. That's what I said. Oh God, yes, you're right. Sorry, no, you're right. Didn't. Sorry, 1,427,000,000. Oi. Super Mario, 1,360,000,000. Oppenheimer, darn close at 926. Big money, Chris Nolan. That's what they call him.
That's what they should call him.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 845, Fast X 704.
Losing money.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse 689. The Little Mermaid.
Losing money.
But in truly embarrassing fashion.
Yeah, we gotta do this one.
Oh God, Mission Impossible, man. 567.
Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was a wild misread.
Yup, by everybody involved, including us. Elemental 49.
It crawled its way past the fentanyl corpse of Ant-Man and the Wasp.
We are in the month of our Lord, almost October of 2023, and Ant-Man is still in the top 10 because the following movies couldn't beat it. Okay, here are the movies currently doing worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp. Transformers, John Wick, The Meg 2, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destitution. Creed 3,
dude, in a fair world, Indy 5 costing $300 million, barely making 383 million worldwide. That should result in like public castigation.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Lucasfilm should be disemboweled, and mostly everyone
should be chopped up and sold for parts.
Yeah, at this point, Lucasfilm should be a dead brand.
It is a dead brand. What value does that there's a decent chance Disney sells that off because there's nothing of value there anymore. Star Wars is dead. Indy's dead.
Yeah, that is wow. But then there's The Flash. I think it's like the worst bomb in 20 fucking years or some shit. Like
relative to its cost, The Flash is one of the like 3 biggest bombs in movie history.
Yeah, it's up there. Sound of Freedom 17, Dungeons and Dragons 208 is 18. The Nun 2 making its debut in the top 20. And then Insidious the Red Door at number
the only movie
20.
I'm gonna say I feel bad for out of that group is one a little bit below it. That was the Turtles movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Which I haven't seen it, but again, I kind of tend to err a little bit on the side of, it's better than that. And it kind of deserves a little better than that.
All right. So obviously the Expendables is not going to last this weekend. This weekend Saw X comes out. That'll be the number 1 movie of the weekend.
Probably.
Also The Creator comes out, but we're going to wait a week. Woo-hoo! And we're going to do that on the 9th.
Nepotism, baby. Woo!
And then The Exorcist comes out, then all 12 hours of Killers of the Flower Moon.
We're gonna that's gonna be a thing.
Yeah. And then finally, on October 30th, we will be reviewing Five Nights at Freddy's. So I think your number 1 movies of the weekend are all going to be, it's going to be Saw X, whatever comes out the following week. But it's something that we're seeing on the 6th, or that's why we're doing The Creator the week after, because I really want to see that and I want to talk about it.
I actually have hopes for The Creator taking the top spot in one of those 2 weeks. I don't know which one, but one of them.
I think The Exorcist will end up being the number 1 movie of its weekend.
I don't know. It might, but I'm also not. I haven't seen any enthusiasm for that at all.
I'm not entirely certain about Killers of the Flower Moon, but we'll see. And then Five Nights at Freddy's. There's a lot of excitement for. I'm gonna look. It's Five Nights at Freddy rated R or not, because I think that's also gonna be a game changer.
Yeah, it should be.
It should be. And so when I saw the trailer, it looked pretty graphic for what it was. On the other hand, like, my kids want to go see. No, it's PG-13.
Oh,
So here's what I'm going to tell you about Five Nights at Freddy's. It's going to win its weekend,
probably,
and I think it's going to get. I think it's going to get a sizable teen audience. I think because again, this game is wildly popular with kids for whatever the reasons are. I don't know. I don't know much about it, but I
never played it.
But I will tell you the Arrested Development adults who, the littles and middles that I deal with, unfortunately, and the children they bear that I'm surrounded by, we're all talking about Five Nights at Freddy's months ago. The only other thing working in its favor is that it's day and date on Peacock, which I think was a dumbass decision.
Well, it makes it easier for me to watch it.
Well, yeah, sure. Like, I might take the kids to the theaters to go see it, just to get them out of the house and get my own self out of this house, but I initially had plans to just watch it on Peacock, because why? That's not going to help its bottom line. I just think it's I don't understand why Peacock is still doing stuff like that. Why Universal is still doing day and date with stuff that, will get a theatrical audience. Like, if you're that worried about it, just let it have its time in the theater and then throw it on Peacock after the fact. Like, I don't know why we're doing both. But
because the Peacock subscriber base is so small, they feel compelled out of pity to throw them a bone every now and then.
Didn't they also just lose the WWE? Like, is that coming off Peacock with the okay? Just Raw and SmackDown are moving, but everything's staying on Peacock.
No, I don't think they're moving. SmackDown's moving from Fox to USA.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So they're actually adding SmackDown easier to Peacock.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Until they have another rights negotiation, which I don't think is due for Raw for a little bit yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to be there, and TKO is going to continue plundering the audience, because that's what monopolies do.
All right. Speaking of plundering and monopolizing your audience, well, there's some news on the strike. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
Strike.
One of the things we talked about, one of the things is the big sticking point was that basically the studios are just like, everything artificial intelligence now and deepfake, and the live actors and people that
the actors and writers and everyone who was convinced that automation couldn't possibly come for their jobs went, no, but our jobs.
Right. So we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that basically there's no stopping what's about to happen. However, they can punt for a few years while everybody in the in-between saves their pennies and starts thinking about other career changes. So everyone sees the asteroid is coming. They know the Earth is about to be hit and humanity is done. But we're giving a temporary timeout so that everyone can build a bomb shelter and fucking hide. That's essentially what's going on here. But we have some news that broke about the SAG strike. Go ahead, Robert.
So current news is that the relevant negotiators came back and said that they have reached a tentative agreement, which largely translates to, okay, everyone in this room has agreed on terms. We've got to take it back to our respective bodies for them to vote on, but we tend to expect this to go through. There were a couple of sticking points for the SAG crew that they seem to have found a way around. But again, I don't know the details. I don't think they've been made public yet. But they were worried about the use of AI. They want what were the sticking points? The AI was a big one. The other big one was a mandatory number of writers. Like they were setting like minimums for how many people could be in the writers' room. You can't have less than X as a way of keeping more writers employed, regardless of how good they are. Which is fine. That's the union's prerogative, I suppose. And that's so they seem to have found a way around this. Again, whether it's time limits, whether it's finding specific numbers. The other big issue is residuals, because writers and actors who are not A-listers tend to live on those things, and streaming services don't give residuals because they don't like giving out specific information that would lead to that being more public knowledge. So they seem to have come to some terms on the finances. They've come to some terms on, again, writers' room numbers, and they've got something with AI. And apparently, again, they seem tentatively good. So in theory, the producers group that was being negotiated with presented something. Again, they figured it out. So there's final acceptance that needs to go on between, I think, the Producers Guild or Association and then the SAG, because they have to vote on it. Now that they're, again, the people that you hire to negotiate these things for you have negotiated, they'll bring back their deal, they'll vote on it, and we'll see what happens. So still waiting to see. There's still a little bit of red tape to go through, but there's a decent chance the SAG strike will be over in the next 3 to 4 months. This drug on longer than it probably should have. It had a pretty serious impact for the time that it did, and the SAG is still on strike, so we still got to deal with that.
So as far as movies
pardon me. I may have said SAG too often earlier. The WGA, the Writers Guild, and then SAG is the Screen Actors Guild.
It's a quick thing sort of wrapping this up. I know that the Zendaya tennis movie where she's in a throuple, that got pushed into Challengers. That got pushed to next year.
Hopefully got pushed into the pit.
Quiet you. I'm going to put it on our schedule.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. But I think I'm not entirely sure if that was because of the strike or not. Probably because one of the things about the strike was you can't do press for it, and you can't get Zendaya's pretty face to sell this thing. Who's going to go fucking see this?
Zendaya has a pretty face.
The Dune got pushed into next year. No, ignore you. Listen, I hear feedback when we do stuff like that. Be nice for when we don't have a reason not to be.
You attached an adjective. I challenged its accuracy in the situation. That's all I did.
She is commonly considered pretty by most mortals. Okay, let's stop arguing with reality. So,
Hang on. I'm not arguing with reality. If anything, you're arguing with reality because you're attempting to impose malleable pseudo standards onto what is objective reality.
Dune got pushed into next year. So that moved around a bunch of Warner Brothers movies. It's not worth getting into. But
yes, it did.
The only movie that was affected for the year 2023 was Dune. Everything that was in 2024 got shifted around, but again, it was all 2024, so who gives a shit? Some of the Disney stuff got shifted around, but not a lot of it. I know the Marvel stuff all got shifted, but that got
there's also a pretty good chunk of stuff that was look, we're not going to feel this right away.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to feel the results of this in 6 months, and that result is going to then stretch for about a year.
when COVID
and
shut down,
and it's really going to hit TV more. These strikes affect TV more than they do
I
film.
was gonna say, when
as a general rule.
when COVID shut down productions, some of which went on, but under mask mandates, and they shot another
good they did.
They shot in other foreign locations and stuff like that. There was a whole bunch of things that happened, but COVID did shut some things down. But more to the point, everyone just pulled their movies out of theaters, and it was like, so a lot of stuff that was slated for 2020, like in Black Widow being one of them, all got pushed into 2021, and 2021 kind of became this domino
effect. Pile up.
It
was LA traffic.
Yeah, there was a log jam of stuff that came out in 2021, and it was all over the fucking maps. Like, some of it was theatrical exhibition, some of it was day and date. It was all over the place. A lot of stuff just went straight to streaming because they were like, fuck it. No one's going to the movies now anyway, despite the fact that they're open. You had HBO Max, now just Max, that was doing everything day and date for the year 2021, starting with Wonder Woman, which came at the ass end of 2020. And then 2022.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. That was actually a good move by them to put Wonder Woman on day and date, because it gave them an excuse other than, boy, this movie is deep fried ass.
Yeah. And then 2022 was a little less of that, but not by much. We were still dealing with traffic jams.
What was I mean, it's a crude expression, but what was I saying? Like, they're tripping over their own dicks constantly with these scheduling and pushbacks, and
right. And then
suddenly we've got stuff that we've been sitting on for 18 months that's got to come out.
And so 2023, now we're starting to see the stuff that was pushed out of 2022, but we're more or less clearing up the log jam, and we're right back into it again, where stuff that, other than Dune, everything that was going to be released is being released on time, more or less. However, we're going to end up seeing in 2025 and then 2026 is the fallout from the strike.
We're gonna see the fallout from the strike start back half of 24.
Yeah,
again, back half of 24, most of 25, if not all of it, and then probably a little bit of 26. Like that, there's that, because everything got shut down.
Unless we're in another lockdown.
Well, there's a new there is an election coming up, so there's going to be a new variant.
Yep. Well, it's the guy I follow.
Watch your
on TikTok.
Right. Look, man. Again, election year. That means there's going to be at least one national crisis, because this is what we do. There's going to be a plague. There's going to be riots. There's going to be some stuff.
There's a guy I follow on TikTok named Greg Johnstone. He does a really funny thing where he talks to himself as different characters. But one of the things he does is the disease update, and so he comes on playing different diseases. And the last one, he was like, "And I'm back," and it's COVID, and it was like, "Oh, we're all so sick of you. We don't care anymore." And it's really, and his whole point is COVID is now, they're saying, one, there's problems with the vaccine. The vaccine doesn't stop all of COVID. And even if it did.
Okay, hang on. Look, if you want to have this conversation, let's have this particular conversation, and let's just hope we don't get flagged.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not trying to spread, look, for the YouTube fucking channel, I'm not trying to spread misinformation. Saying this.
Let's make it.
This was the skit he put on.
And look, let's have a brief recitation of facts, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
We were told cloth masks were good. We now know they weren't. We were told it's a vaccine. It never was. Not saying don't get it. I'm saying it wasn't what was advertised. And by misadvertising it, by the way, you bunch of jackasses, you delegitimized legitimate vaccines. Because what they had for COVID was basically a booster shot, a flu shot, something that will help you, will, in theory, mitigate the symptoms, give you a less severe case, and maybe help you not catch it. But,
right.
It's not foolproof. It's a new thing.
Right. And so for people who are already immunocompromised or struggling with different things, it doesn't help you as much as you might be led to believe. Again, I'm with Robert. That doesn't mean you don't get it. Just like you don't get a flu shot. But this is not a foolproof defense against death.
Yeah. This is not me saying that there was no value in getting it. Choose to get it, choose not to. That's a personal health decision between you and your physician. I'm out of that. I'm a nobody in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that got it. I know people that didn't. I'm not going to tell you what I did, because that's my business, not yours. But when you say it's a vaccine, that words matter, people. I have certain vaccines. I've had them. I'm fine. It means I don't get that. If you sell me the polio vaccine and 8 months later I get polio, we got a problem.
So without getting too much further off on a tangent, people listening to this going, hey, this went weird in a hurry. The whole point of the guy's TikTok, and the only reason why I brought this up related to the central topic of this podcast, is I don't think we're gonna have another lockdown, but I will tell you, people will make a choice. And if the news is like COVID's on the rise, they're not choosing to go to the fucking movies. Well, and then studios kind of look at the situation and go, we have to now rethink our entire release strategy because we're dealing with, and I have only been saying this for 2 years, we're dealing with a public that is skittish about being out in public, let alone spending $100 on a theater experience.
Yeah, look, there's two things there. One, yeah, look, COVID's endemic. It just is at this point. You ain't getting rid of it. You just have to kind of figure out, all right, am I going to go out or not? And
yeah,
fair play, whatever you decide. I'm not here to judge you in that respect. But, dude, wasn't there some place here, wasn't like North Carolina, that tried to put mask mandates or something back in play because they had some variant? And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to promise you this: if you try that widespread again, like, look, you could not convince people when you had somewhat decent arguments and a fair amount of institutional trust.
You know, it's funny. I told you about
you have nothing now.
So dumb
that
money
will not fly.
So dumb money takes place at the end of 2020 and I think the beginning of 2021. And it was really funny to watch recent history portrayed on film because there's a lot of like a guy with a mask underneath his nose and someone going mask up, you know, and just the presence of mask in the mask culture and all of that. Like, we're not that far removed from the 2020 lockdown. It's only 2023, and a lot of what happened in 2020 carried over into 2021. I mean, 2022 was the first like normal year we've had of the last 4. So
I wouldn't even call 2022 normal. Like, again, more normal,
right?
But man, Mark, you and I remember the before times. We remember 2018, 2019.
Yes. I remember. I'm a member. All right. You want to do the...
we ain't there anymore.
No, sir. It's a brand new and exciting Mad Max world out there. All right. With that said, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right.
That's about right.
14%. Yeah, the critics are just like, I hate my life. And the audience was like, I came here for the punching and the killing, and I got punching and killing. And
again, that's about right.
Megan Fox's covered tits. Like, whatever. When you go to top critics, this drops 2%. And when you go to all audiences, it drops down considerably. Wow.
Okay, who is paying this? Look, this is one of those things that we didn't get to talk about. News of this broke while we were out.
Yeah.
But Rotten Tomatoes lost a tremendous amount of credibility when it was revealed there's a handful of PR firms that basically pay them.
Yeah.
Will pay individual critics for better reviews, or they will pay Rotten Tomatoes to go through and like, okay, this is a marginal one, so it's fit, so we'll make it fresh instead of rotten.
So, Robert, you and I are not insiders.
No.
We couldn't be more outside. We can't even get on Rotten Tomatoes. Much to my chagrin. But we have been saying some of this has smelt fit. Part of the reason why we did this bit, part of the reason why we started this bit, was some of these reviews smelt fishy to us. Yep. Like, this whole operation smelt fishy to us at times. And we would joke about, oh, come on, they've got to be paying for reviews. And as it turns out, two assholes on the internet yelling Megan Fox's tits were right.
Well, hang on. One of us was saying that. I never did that.
You yell about other stuff, but
I do. I don't. I try not to yell about women's bodies.
Oh my God, you literal son of a bitch.
Hey, don't call my mom that.
Fair enough.
You called me a literal son of a.
So. Literal.
Oh, you just got it. You just got it. I just saw the dot connect there.
The light bulb just went on.
There we go.
Sitting at a Starbucks tonight, and the guy actually pulled out a fucking light bulb. And he was clearly a lunatic, but he actually pulled out a light bulb, put it on his head. He was like, I carry it around for just this purpose. And I'm like, that's great. Let's go, Jonas. So
Right. Go away, or I'm going to make you eat it.
yeah, smash it over your head like Schlack. Anyway, it is amazing to me that our little rinky-dink podcast that we did because I wanted to talk about the movies I was taking my daughter to, in 10 years ago.
Life.
Yeah, I was just like, hey, I want to talk movies with my friends. And so we started this podcast and, and it became what it became. But it's amazing to me that we have no level of insight beyond casual observation and a fair amount of common sense. We have a degree.
Hang on. We have observation. We have a modicum of common sense and decent critical thinking skills, and we arrived at the truth a while ago.
Yeah, and we solved this mystery well before the Scooby Gang got to it. Ladies and gentlemen, damn you, Hollywood! Trust no other source. With that said, solid work from Jason Statham and some halfway decent set pieces aren't enough to make up for the Expendables' lackluster action and cheap-looking effects. Well, at least the AI didn't write that.
Well, that's not wrong.
Yeah, that's about as close to the truth as this site has ever gotten. All right. I don't even know where to start with this. Felix Vasquez Jr. of Cinema Crazed. Once you've resorted to casting Megan Fox as a credible action star, it's time to wrap it up and call it a franchise. Yup.
You know what? I didn't mention that, but Megan Fox has uses in the... Hang on. Just don't be weird. Hang on.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to cast Megan Fox, there's reasons you would do that. Legitimate reasons that are not just you being weird. Don't be weird.
Don't be weird, Sparky.
Hang on. There are legitimate reasons to cast Megan Fox or someone adjacent to her, right?
Mhm.
Someone who... She's not a believable action star.
Not even a little bit. It's funny. Just to double back on that. I happen to mention that I work in a correctional institution. I work hand in hand with law enforcement as a professional social worker. This is what I do, and I've been doing so for over a decade. And
benefits kicking in yet, or you got to get to 15?
What was that?
Do your benefits kick in yet, or do you have to get to 15 years?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good question, though. I mean, I have other benefits, but
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Anyway, I work with a fair amount of women, especially in this particular area that I'm assigned to, and occasionally we have one or two women that show up for work and they like to be pretty and they want to be seen as pretty. But this is not a job that you are, especially the nursing staff, which is mostly women. We all get told the same thing. Wear your shoes for running. Don't wear heels, obviously, which someone did ask about that recently. And we're like, no, stupid. It's a correctional institution. But also don't make yourself up. Don't tart yourself up. This is a correctional institution. You're going to draw the wrong kind of attention to make problems where there doesn't need to be. But also, while these women in their private lives, their social lives will go, will just as any woman will do, will wear makeup and make themselves look pretty. They don't feel the need to do that when they come to work, which makes the fact that when you do it on screen even less believable, because no rational woman does this sort of thing. Like, why would you put on makeup and blush and eyeshadow to do a military mission or to...
Well, what you really need, Mark, what you really need when you're on the military mission, Mark, you need bright red lipstick.
Yeah, sure.
Just so that the enemy has a target. So you definitely stand out.
I will tell you from personal experience, wearing bright red lipstick definitely gives you a target on the face. Anyway, moving on.
Why are you so... I don't have to ask that one. I know what you did for a living before you were a social worker. So yeah, that tracks. So
does everyone who watched. Of all the things we kind of hint at, that's not one of them. I've directly said that on here.
I know. I'm just saying. You reference it. It bleeds through into your behavior in ways that occasionally catch me by surprise.
Chelsea Steiner of the Mary Sue, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast. I think it's time to let this franchise die. Oh, do you, Chelsea? Do you, Chelsea? Does it, Jay?
Arrived at that conclusion all on your own, did you?
With a humorless script and an uninspired plot and the most predictable twist of all time, this film limps along as tired and creaky as senior citizens in its cast. Aw.
Not wrong.
Let's see. Kevin Carr, fat guy at the movie. Like it.
Yeah, but we haven't bullied him in a while, so.
It's the fourth movie, and the franchise is still trying to decide existential questions like, is this about old school action stars or new wannabes, as well as whether to shoot it for a PG-13 or an R rating?
Yeah, because those are existential questions.
Yeah, I don't think he knows what that means, but he heard it in a podcast once.
He's heard me use it with. Existentialism is about to become the new nihilism when it comes to movies, words that are thrown around by reviewers who don't really know what they mean.
When my 9 and 12-year-old are throwing out existential crisis because they heard it somewhere, it's an overused and not properly used word.
There's no reason for a 9-year-old to have an existential crisis.
Well, have you seen the 9-year-old that lives in this house or this house? Dana Kennedy of AARP Movies for
Of all the crises he could be having, an existential one is not high on that list.
Come for the blood, gore, and one-liner. Stay for the fun and touching plot twist at the end that I, for one, didn't see coming.
Wow.
Oh.
You fell asleep in the middle of this, didn't you?
You've been asleep since 1989.
Boy,
Hope Madden of Fox 28 Columbus. Dumb. Not
Very
helpful.
unhelpful review.
Yeah. Giovanni Lego of Nest Best Picture. And an action film landscape that has recently delivered great films like John Wick and Mission Impossible. This year alone, maybe it's time that the Expendables retire for good. All right.
Well, one of those was a good action movie. The other
Jeffrey
was Tom Cruise.
Jeffrey Harris of 401 Mania. Expendables resembles a rundown car running on fumes and sputtering on its last gasps as it slows to a crawl on a sad stop.
Not wrong. Appropriate metaphor.
The sequel isn't even an entertaining car crash. It's just a poorly made, incoherent piece of cinematic junk. You know, I'm going to go ahead and applaud Jeffrey Harris for using metaphor and puns, but doing so because it suited the opinion that he was giving, the review that he was writing, and not because it comes out of the title of the movie. Like, Good for you, Jeff. Like that's how you're supposed to do that. Not there was pirates in this, so I did a bunch of pirate puns. We have a guy for that, and he doesn't come on here anymore. Love you. Victoria Luxford of City AM, a serviceable action film that will likely satisfy those in search of violence and explosions.
As a guy in search of violence and explosions, it did not.
Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. The clip is out of ammo. See, okay, the anti-Jeff Harris, Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. Go. The clip is out of ammo on this franchise that has never lived up to its potential, and this is the worst of them all. You're not wrong, but it's also that was a freaking terrible line. Yeah,
you threw a half-assed line related to firearm culture in there for no good reason. I'm not entirely sure I agree with his point about it never living up to its promise, but some of that's also unrealistic expectations.
I'm going to leave it here with this one because, I pick at Amy Nicholson of the New York Times top critic a lot. We have frequently called this broad dumb as shit. But here, I got to laugh.
We have called her less kind things than that on occasion.
Yeah, we have. I mean, she's not quite the other idiot. The one that didn't like Super Mario. God, what's her name? Grace Randolph. But yeah, Amy Nicholson has definitely been a frequent punching bag on this show. But when the broad makes good, I got to read the broad's review. The film's last reel is so awful. How awful is it, Amy? So sneeringly contemptuous of our good faith efforts to play along with these shenanigans that would leave the theater still thinking of that shot of a corpse's middle finger. It sure seems pointed at us. I kind of agree with you there, and thinking back on
not entirely wrong, but I appreciate you speaking for me and using the royal we. That's always appreciated.
All right. So again, coming up in October on Damn You Hollywood.
We're back, baby.
We are, only because Ronnie can only work Mondays. We're back to our normal Tuesday spot, October 3rd, but then we are back on Mondays for now to the end of time. I have to bump us to Tuesdays to accommodate Ronnie, but I'm trying to work around that going forward. But in any case, Saw X will review on October 3rd. And then The Creator on Columbus Day, October 9th. The Exorcist Believer on October 16th. Killers of the Flower Moon, which we will review also at the theater because it'll still be going on.
Mark and
on
I
October
will.
23rd.
Mark, if there was one movie that I really do kind of wish you and I could actually sit side by side in a theater and like live record our Statler and Waldorf routine over, it would be that one. Because I think that's the only way we'd ever get it out. Because one of us is coming out of that, like, we're going too close to the black hole on some of these things. One of us is going to miss a couple of years. Just come out later like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. All right. And then finally we end the month, like I said, with Five Nights at Freddy's on October 30th. As far as what are we doing this week, tomorrow the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox is back. We are going to be talking about Cannibal Corpse, Chaos Horrific. Jesse's going to whip out his chat GPT, and we're all going to take a turn on her. And I'm going to talk about the state of the mosh pit, because I was at a Hate Breed show Saturday night, and I have thoughts that need to be shared.
Old men moshing.
Yeah. And then Wednesday, Alexis is back. She took some time off from TV Party Tonight, but she is back, and she's going to be discussing Futurama with God only knows who.
I need to watch that actually now that it's all out.
This weekend, we've got The Long Road to Ruin for the two Fox Fantastic Four movies that I did with Sean, I believe. And then
that's a short road to ruin.
Yeah, it really was. It was an alley to ruin. And then on Sunday, Metal Hammer of Doom, Faith No More, Soul Invictus. Everyone Loves a Bad Guys are done. So Everyone Loves a Bad Guy Saturdays is now finally over. All of the Everyone Loves a Bad Guys that Robert ever did on Blog Talk Radio are now uploaded. So on Saturdays, we are shifting over to what's left of the Blog Talk Radio stuff. Like I said, this weekend, we've got The Long Road to Ruin for the Fantastic Four. And then on Saturday, October 7th, we have a Daniel Hollywood for Fan Fourth Stick, which I literally wrote it that way. The Blade Trilogy on the 14th. And then I'm kind of just working through a lot of stuff that didn't make the run on the W2M speaker feed that I did do on my own personal one before I gave it up and fully merged with W2M. Not that any of you give a shit about that, but that's why these are now getting re-aired. So October 21st is the Godzilla alternative commentary that I did with my kids, Alexis and Jesse. Jesse did one for Kung Fury. Alexis, Jesse, and I did one for Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That'll be November 4th. Pat and I did one for Space Invaders, 1990. Me and Jesse did one for Judgment Night. That's November 18th. And I think me and Pat did the Halftime Heat for 2019. That was the NXT
that sounds
one.
About right.
Yeah, that'll be Saturday, November 25th. And then we've got some old boxing that I never published on this feed. It'll be Leo Santa Cruz versus Rafael Rivera. So for those of you that like to hear our old boxing commentaries, that's what's coming up there. We have some Screaming Boys that never made the feed that I did an audit of recently and realized they weren't up here. So we've got some kind of military theme show, because that's when I used to make Ronnie do theme stuff. DC movies and other stuff is December 16th. The 23rd, Crappy Transformers. Yes, from Transformers Week. And then we are ending the year December 30th with our tribute to Carrie Fisher when she passed away. It'll be on the anniversary of her death, December 30th, 2016. So I remember my friends and I got together. I think we canceled whatever show there was that night so we could all talk about Princess Leia. And, a nice time was had by all, and we remembered her nicely and had a perfectly lovely conversation. That's what I got going on with me. Robert, go ahead and show us what you pissed from.
So, lots changed for me in the last month. Not really. My life is sad. I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. I cover MLW stuff on Thursday, WWE SmackDown on Friday, UFC events on Saturday when they happen, which is most Saturdays. Last Saturday was UFC on ESPN Plus 86, which was it was a night that had so much promise and did not fully deliver for reasons. So there's a full review of that on the other podcast I host. That's the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. I record that Sunday evenings. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can check me out over there. Also this week. You see, there's no UFC event the 30th. You'd think then I would be free, Mark. Free to potentially watch, Canelo and Charlo with you.
I will be at the No Effect show, but I will be with you in spirit. And believe me, I'm not thrilled about it.
Well, hang on. You'd think I'd be free for that.
Yeah.
But alas and alack, instead of being able to watch boxing, I agreed to cover something. Mark, do you want to guess what happens?
Was it Crown Jewel?
Nope.
What happened? What is it?
It is a professional wrestling event.
Yeah.
Care to guess which brand?
Oh no! Did you get hornswoggled into doing AEW?
No, I've done AEW before.
MLW?
No, I don't do them live.
Ring of Honor?
No, that's not a thing.
Okay, who's left?
NXT's No Mercy will be
Oh,
Saturday,
you poor
September 30th.
Jesus Christ, you poor bastard.
So
What they got Braun Breaker doing this time?
I don't know. I don't watch NXT.
Nobody
I
does.
will look. I'll read Jeremy's review of the last NXT before the event, and that'll catch me up on things. And yeah, I'll be covering that. No, I cover AEW semi-regularly. I did both All Out and All In. I did All In and All Out.
Nice.
All
right.
One of those was a last minute thing. One I agreed to earlier in advance. I think I agreed to do. Wait, did I do All In? Because All In was the Wembley show. I don't think I covered that.
Okay.
I might have.
I don't know. I was at work.
I did cover All Out because that was a last minute thing. It was like, help, somebody. Went, all right, I'll bail you out again. Here I am. So yeah, I covered that one, which actually had a couple of good matches on it, so that was nice. Yeah, SmackDown is treading water at the moment, and it's there. And apparently the big closing angle from last Friday was John Cena was supposed to tag team with AJ Styles to take on Jimmy Uso, who no one cares about, and Solo Sikoa, who a few people care about. And the big thing was AJ gets jumped in the back, and who's going to be John Cena's mystery partner? He'll come down and save Cena from a beatdown. Well, it was supposed to be LA Knight, but he got COVID.
Yeah.
So nobody came down to save John Cena, and we have to wait another week to see if he gets cleared or play who's gonna team with John Cena at Fastlane, which is in 2 weeks.
Fucking shit show.
$21 billion company, the TKO, the merged entity of WWE and UFC, $21 billion valuation. These jackasses can't keep their stuff together. It's pathetic.
Well, Rob has an existential crisis or some sort of
I do
meltdown.
not have an existential crisis about this. There's actually a specific name for how I feel about that, but
it's Schadenfreude. All right, folks.
Little bit.
Thank you for joining us on Damn You Hollywood. We'll be back again next week. For Robert Winfree, I'm having an allergy attack of some kind. Be well, be safe, and behave.